In this video, I'm going to show you how to fold a wobbling wall of 9 cubes designed by Heinz Strobl. This is the model in action. You can simply take it by its two sides and just hold one side stable, this one, and the other one push up or push down, and the wall begins to wobble. It's a fantastic design, and we're going to learn how to fold it. Now, this model I folded from these kind of paper strips. This was sold for quilling. It's 3/8 of an inch wide. I believe there's also options, for example, 5/8 of an inch and so on. You might also find these strips sold for lucky stars, for fribble stars, or something of the like. Another option you have for paper strips is simply to take a larger sheet and cut it into lots of strips. You will have to start with quite a large paper, because the longest strip we're going to be working with will be 14 times as long as it's wide. But it's possible. The third option is if you have these kind of amazing rolls of paper. This one has a width of 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters, and these are not as readily available anymore, but they used to be, because this was, for example, used as a data storage, like punching holes in there. So you might find it as punched tape or paper tape. I will be using this, this paper roll because it's just a bit wider, and also because it's rolled, you can see that it has like a specific curl. And it's important how you fold this kind of type of curled paper. If it's flat like this and it doesn't really have a direction, then you can ignore those comments and do it either way around. So for this model we will need 30 strips that are 6 times as long as they are wide. So for example, this strip is 1 inch wide and thus 6 inches long, and then this we need 30 times, and then we have some longer strips which are 1 inch wide and then 14 inches long, plus an extra 1/4 of an inch maybe, just because when you fold paper it's going to take, the creases are going to take some space, and I just want to be sure to have enough paper in the end. So in centimeters, that's about 2.5 centimeters by 15 centimeters, and then 2.5 centimeters by 35 centimeters, plus maybe 1/2 centimeter. Finally, we have one extra strip which we're going to use as a tool, and it doesn't really matter that much how long it is. I'd suggest maybe 1 by 4 at least, or 1 by 5. So let's start with making a tool. The tool we're just going to fold in half, and as you can see I'm folding this against the curl. So I'm folding this in half, and it's not so important that these two edges align, but it is important that you're making a 90-degree angle here, so that you're aligning this edge with that edge. And then you want to have a sharp crease. And for a sharp crease, you can simply take your fingernail and your the soft part of your finger. So if you crease like this, then you will get a very sharp crease. So I'm doing that, kind of my fingernail and my fingertip, and make a sharp crease. And this is our tool. There you go. And you can see it's kind of it's formed like this rather than that, like, so it's concave and not convex. Right, so now we have a tool, and we want to start by folding lots of small cubes, and these are then going to be assembled in the end with the longer strips. So for a cube we need 3 strips, so in the end we will be folding 10 cubes, and I'll review to you why we need 10 and not 9. And then we're going to start by inserting the strip so that the curl points to the bottom. And then you insert this so that this line aligns here. It's better if it's a bit inside rather than outside. And the important thing to mention here is that you really want to have this edge align with that tool border. You can see I'm really pushing it in there, and this ensures that it's very straight. Now, if you don't have a straight cut here, it's not a big problem. Just ensure that none of this overlaps, so that when you're inside you can see that there might be, let's simulate this a bit more, there might be a small gap. Don't make it too big, but make a small gap so that you really get a straight crease. And then you make your first crease, aligning this edge again with that top edge of the tool. And make a strong crease. Now we have a very precise 90-degree angle, and we're going to do that with a second one. Now we have two such strips, and one we're going to hold like this so that the folded edge is pointing towards the right, and the other one is pointing towards the top. And then we're going to insert the one pointing towards the top into the one pointing towards the right, and get those aligned nicely. Now we're going to take the right edge and fold it over so that there's a crease basically along this line, or at least kind of there. So the more important bit is that you align this edge with that edge, which used to be the tool's edge. So now the other strip is the tool for us. And then you again make a strong crease with your fingertip and your fingernail. And then it looks like this, and then you turn it and do the same thing again. And again, crease and turn. This allows you to make quite precise folds, and it's very important that these folds are quite precise and also sharp. So really do use your fingernail and that soft part of your fingertip, and you just continue folding until you can go no further. And on the last square you will see that there is a slight gap, and that gap will vary depending on mostly the thickness of the paper. And it's okay if this, is a bit larger, but it shouldn't be too large. So if you're using very thick paper, you might want to start with a strip that isn't 1/6, but just a bit longer. And now we just need to unfold this. Now if you did this just the way I did, there's a very easy way of doing that, is you just open the end and then you pull, and then it all comes apart again. Now we need 3 such strips, so I'm just going to do this again, but this time a bit quicker. So I'm going to insert the curl points to the bottom, and crease first strip, and then the second strip, and then again fold lots of squares, always folding over, creasing and turning, folding over, creasing and turning, folding over and creasing and turning, folding over and creasing and turning. I guess I'm doing a folding over, turning and creasing actually. Doesn't matter that much. I like to fold away from myself. So that's why I kind of turn it before I crease it. And then again, we can open these parts and then take 2 that are next to each other and pull. And it might flip away. So now we've got 4 strips, And we need 3 for one square, and the other one we're just going to use for the next cube. So when you look at this paper, you will see that this is concave, like round to the outside, and this is kind of convex, which is round to the inside. And we want to have all of these creases be valleys in the concave. So what we're going to do is these kind of bellies, we're going to turn around the crease, make a nice strong crease. So it's going to be every second one once you determined which way they're rounded. And this will just give a better result. So again, looking at this is kind of going to the outside, this is kind of going to the inside, so we're going to turn them this way around. Can be a bit tricky to see this, but again, as I mentioned in the beginning, if you're not using paper from a roll, you will not have a direction, so you can simply fold it either way. In the end, you do want to have valleys throughout. So now we have 6 strips with 6 almost squares at least, like the first and the last one aren't quite going to be square. Now we're going to take one strip, and I'm going to show it, I think, this way around. And we want to have this uneven U shape. So there's one square here, there's 2 squares, and then there's 3 squares. I'm going to hold it up like this. Or maybe if that stays, put it up like that. The next strip, you can see it's rounded like this. I'm just going to lay inside, that's it. And the third strip, I'm going to, if you put this down, I'm going to lay it on top there, and then start with the first square right here, you know, touching that first strip, and then roll it around, this part, that part, then over here, the back again, and then this side. So we've really just rolled it around. And now what we do is we, while keeping this fixed, we pull this strip until it stops right at kind of one square. And then you fold this over in between, over, and then you have just one square overlapping. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this pocket and insert that last square into the pocket. And we're not going to close the square off quite yet. We're going to do that when we assemble the wobbling wall. So we continue with that. I'm just going to show you one more time, more quickly. So first you need to use your tool to do the witch's ladder. Then fold the witch's ladder. Always making sharp creases. Take it apart. Then make the convex creases into concave creases. And then start assembling one of those cubes. And then you have your next cube done. And we need to make 10 of these. Once you've got all your 10 boxes done, and you can see that one flap is always one long and the other is two squares long, or one full square and then the rest. We're going to start working on the hinges. These are the strips that are 14 times as long as they're wide, basically, plus a bit extra. And again, we're going to fold a witch's ladder just a longer one this time around. And again, interlock the first two and then start folding over and rotating and then creasing. This time just crease with the soft part of your fingers rather than using your nail to make a sharp crease. This ensures that the creases need a tiny bit more space, and this is good because the hinges need some movement, but they just need a very tiny bit of movement. So the best way to get that tiny bit of difference is to fold with the soft part of your fingers rather than using your fingernail against the soft part of one of your fingers. So as you can see, I'm really just pushing the creases, not making them sharp at all. This is going to make just a tiny fraction difference, but that tiny fraction is quite important. Now I mentioned I made these strips a bit longer, so it might be that I made them too long and then I just cut off a bit. We'll see in a second. I was quite generous with the extra space I gave it. But it looks like this was okay. So the overlap, there is no overlap on the last square. Okay, now all of them are folded. Now I'm going to go through with my fingernails, but this isn't going to be enough to make them all sharp. And again, just using that trick to automatically open these, I'm going to use 2 squares unfolded this time, just because it's a longer strip. And if you feel uncomfortable with doing this, you can just unfold it the traditional way. Just taking it this way and pulling it apart, and all works nicely. And again, we're going to make lots of concave creases out of the convex ones, and also use them to make them sharp. So we're going along every crease now, so that we get nice sharp creases, even though we folded with the soft part of our fingertips while doing the witch's ladder. I think I missed the first one. And then again, just check which direction they need to go and make them all concave. So you might be wondering why concave is better than convex, and the simple reason is, I can show you this in a second, is that the cubes will hold better, and for these creases kind of the direction of the hinges will help too. So basically when you look at these squares, if you do concave creases, then the sides will tend to go inside a bit rather than outside. So if it's outside, it might come apart more easily and not look as pretty. So doing these concave creases does make it nicer. One of these strips we're actually not going to need to be 1 by 14, but 1 by 7. So what I'm just going to do is fold these in half. You can kind of see the overlap here. And then just cut off a thin strip, the crease basically, so that we have 2 nice 1 by 7 strips. And we're going to put those aside for a bit, because we're first going to start with the 1 by 14 strip. So once you have all your 10 cubes assembled, I guess this is what the wobbling wall is going to be put together like. And we're just going to start with the strip that's 1 by 14. We're going to take this 1 cube, and we want to just, let's say this is the bottom of the cube and this is the top of the cube. And if you just insert this strip, just kind of curl it this way, so that the cube is attached to it. So for that, you just go through the bottom, you can kind of see this flip open, and push through. And just for reference, if you did this the other way around, still going through the bottom, it might be that you push this tab open. If that happens, don't worry, you can just take it out, push through, and then insert the tab below that 1 by 14 strip again. And if it's not quite tight anymore, you just pull on these 2 tabs, it should tighten up. Then let's put this about in the center. It's going to be 1 off center, so that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares on one side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the other. And the 14th is right down there. Then we're going to take this strip and fold it over in between these 2 tabs, and then close the cube by first taking the short tab and then the long tab, folding it over, and the last tab bit that remains is inserted into a pocket again. Again, pressing it open a bit, put in 1 tip, push it in until you get the second tip to go into. Can sometimes be a bit tricky, but you know, just persevere. And then this cube is attached to the strip. Next, we're going to take another cube and attach it like this. So what we're going to do is just take that long strip, take 1 tab, take the other tab, close the box, kind of wiggle that in there, and then make it meet with the other one. And then on the other side you do the same thing, again adding a cube. It doesn't matter which side the small tab is on. I haven't seen any difference. I have folded this a couple of times now and never paid attention to it, so I think I'd been inconsistent and I couldn't see any reason why it would matter. So one other tip I guess I can give is, just in case it's too difficult to insert these tabs, what you can do is you can take 1 small corner and cut it off, just a tiny corner. Like, don't make a long cut here, you really don't want that, just a tiny corner. And then it might be easier to get that tab inserted. Although I have to admit, this is the first time I did this, but I heard the tip from Heinz. And now we've kind of got this first part of the wobbling cube done. Next we want to add a cube right here. So we're going to insert it on one side, on the bottom, and then add the locking of the top of that cube. I'm just going to insert it on one side. Again, it doesn't really matter on which side you put the top or the bottom. It just can be done either way. And then again, I folded quite neatly today, I guess. So if you fold very precisely, the result is going to be nice, but it's also going to be a bit harder to get those tabs inside. Next stage, again, attach a box on each side, closing the top. First the small tab, then the large tab. And the other side. Let's take this one. First the small tab, and then the longer one. And then add the final one. So this time round, let's use the bottom of the box on the shorter strip. And this just ensures that the layers of paper are distributed more evenly, and that's a good thing. Also makes it a bit easier to close the top because you have a longer strip where you can just kind of have it have a bit of space between the cubes before closing it up completely. Well, there you go. And then you have a tab here and you close it just as before. Inserting the final tab into the square. So now you've kind of got the start of this wobbly wall, and all we want to do is we want to add 2 squares right there, or rather this way around. So for this, on each side we need the 1x7 strips, and we're going to start by inserting that right here. Kind of, if you imagine this to be the head, then you kind of put it right where the shoulder is. So just going to make this more accessible and then insert it into this side, not that side, but this side. And there you go. So you can see it's going into the bottom and not to the left. And then you can wrap it over and then again push it through. And here, as I mentioned at the beginning, you can see sometimes it may open up, and if that happens, don't worry, just open the tab, push the paper through, hold it up and insert the tab again. There you go. And pull it through. There we go. Then let's add the cube. And just first using the small tab. Oops. First using the small tab and then the larger one. Closing the box. And then you take the strip, again go through that side now. Pushing this open again. Should have gone the other way around, I guess, but it doesn't matter. And let's leave this open for now, because next we're going to go on to the other side, again inserting into the shoulder, wrapping around, going through the side of the cube, reinserting the tab, adding the cube, and going through the side to connect. And the reason I wanted you to not pull this is that all of this kind of stayed quite flexible throughout. And it's pulled itself through actually by now, but while inserting these tabs, it's easier if you have a bit more space to work with, especially not securing the end yet. So now, once you've got these two tabs left, you're going to wrap around and then go inside kind of the shoulder again, if you see this as the head. So I'm just going to turn this over, insert into that shoulder, and turn over and insert into, that shoulder. And then the wall itself is all done. Now, why did I tell you to do 10 cubes? Well, let's close this final cube. And you can actually stabilize the wall by using the 10th cube and inserting it into one of these. So I usually check which side goes more easily. This is extremely even actually. This side goes in a bit harder, so I put it in first and then insert this, and then you can't really wobble the wall anymore. I hope you enjoyed this model, the Wobbling Wall of 9 Cubes by Heinz Strobl. And of course you can use more or fewer cubes, but this one is just for you to start with. Happy folding!